Picture this: a container ship in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. It's the length of 4 football fields. It's stacked 10 stories high with 20,000 steel boxes, and it is 2,000 miles from the nearest patch of dry land in any direction. Out on the deck, a sailor pulls his phone from his pocket. He checks the time back home. He taps a name. He holds the phone to his ear, and it rings. Once, twice, and his daughter picks up. She's on the other side of the planet. He's standing on a moving steel island surrounded by nothing but water for 1,000 miles in every direction. His phone shows 0 bars, no signal, no service. And yet the call connects, crystal clear, like he's calling from the next room. How? There are 3 layers to this story. The first explains why the phone in your pocket would be a useless brick out there. The second reveals the hidden technology that quietly replaced it. And the third is something almost nobody ever stops to think about. By the end of this video, you'll never look at the ocean the same way again. So how does a sailor call home from the middle of nowhere? Most people assume the answer is obvious. The ship just has a really powerful antenna, a stronger signal, some kind of superphone. But that's not it at all. The truth is older, stranger, and far more clever than a bigger antenna. And it starts with understanding just how weak your phone really is. Here's something most people never think about. Your cell phone is not powerful, not even close. The signal it sends out reaches, at absolute best, a cell tower somewhere between 2 and 20 miles away. Over open water, with a tall tower and perfect conditions, maybe 30 miles if you're lucky. After that, the signal is simply gone. But distance isn't even the real enemy. The real enemy is the shape of the planet itself. The Earth curves, and the signals from a cell tower travel in a straight line. So once a ship sails far enough from shore, the curve of the ocean literally rises up between the phone and the tower. The signal doesn't fade out. The Earth blocks it, physically. There is a bulge of seawater standing in the way, and no amount of signal strength can bend around it. To really understand how alone a ship can be, consider a place in the South Pacific called Point Nemo. It's the single most remote spot in any ocean on Earth, the exact point farthest from any land. The nearest coastline is 1,670 miles away. In fact, when the International Space Station passes overhead, the closest human beings to a ship at Point Nemo aren't anyone on the ground. They're the astronauts up in orbit. Out there, a cell tower might as well be on the moon. So if the phone in your pocket is dead weight in the middle of the ocean, what on earth were sailors doing for the last 100 years? Because ships have been crossing these oceans since long before satellites ever existed. And the answer to that question is the foundation that everything else was built on. Long before satellites, ships talked to the world using radio waves and a trick of physics that still feels like magic today. High above the Earth, roughly 50 to 400 miles up, there's a layer of the atmosphere called the ionosphere. The sun charges it with energy. And certain radio frequencies, the ones sailors call HF, short for high frequency, do something remarkable when they hit that layer. They bounce. A radio signal fired upward at just the right angle strikes the ionosphere and reflects back down to Earth thousands of miles away. It skips over the horizon like a stone skipping across a pond. So a ship stranded in the middle of the Atlantic could reach an operator sitting in London, not by punching through the curve of the Earth, but by bouncing a signal clean off the sky itself. For decades, this was all done in Morse code. Tap, tap, tap. A trained radio officer sat in a cramped room packed with equipment, translating words into pulses of sound. Every large ship in the world carried one. And on the standard emergency frequency, ships listened around the clock for 3 letters that meant a vessel was dying. SOS. But a signal bounced off the sky is unreliable. Solar storms scramble it. The time of day changes it. It fades in and it fades out. It was good enough to save lives in a crisis, but you could never casually call your family on it. You couldn't hear your son's voice on a good day, let alone tuck him in. Something better had to come from somewhere no storm could block. and that somewhere was straight up. In 1979, an international effort began to put ships in permanent contact with land using satellites. The idea was simple and enormous at the same time. Park a satellite 22,236 miles directly above the equator. At that exact altitude, something amazing happens. The satellite orbits the planet at precisely the same speed the Earth spins. So from the ground, it appears to hang completely motionless in the sky. It never moves. A ship's antenna can lock onto it and stay locked, no matter where in the ocean the vessel sails. This is called geostationary orbit, and it's how the very first ship-to-shore phone calls became possible from the open sea. Suddenly, a captain didn't have to bounce a signal off the atmosphere and pray it landed. He aimed a dish at one fixed point in space and got a clean line straight back to shore. But there's a catch, and you can actually hear it on the call. That satellite is 22,000 miles up. Even at the speed of light, a signal takes real time to climb all the way up there and fall all the way back down. About half a second for a full round trip. So on those calls, there's a tiny delay. You say hello, and there's a beat, a little pause, before you hear the reply come back. Sailors simply got used to talking with a half-second lag, because a half-second lag beats total silence every single time. Then came a completely different idea. Instead of one satellite parked impossibly high, what if you flew a whole swarm of them, low and fast? A network was launched with 66 satellites orbiting just 485 miles up, circling the planet in a web that blankets every inch of it, including the North and South poles, where those high geostationary satellites can't even reach. As one satellite races over the horizon, the next one is already rising to catch the call. Handoff, 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 all of it seamless and invisible to the person talking. And because these satellites fly so much closer to the ground, that annoying delay nearly disappears. A sailor could hold a satellite phone the size of a brick, standing in the dead center of the Pacific, and talk almost as naturally as a phone call from his own kitchen. For the first time in human history, the ocean stopped being a place where people simply vanished. But voice was never going to be enough. The world wanted the internet, and it wanted it at sea too. So ships started mounting stabilized dishes, antennas bolted onto motorized mounts that stay locked onto a satellite, even as the vessel rolls and pitches through 20-foot waves. This technology, called VSAT, finally brought real broadband to the deep ocean. Email, weather maps, video. For years, though, it was brutally expensive. Data at sea cost a small fortune. Crews were rationed down to a few megabytes at a time, and calls were counted by the minute. A sailor might get 30 minutes of internet in an entire week to reach everyone he loved back home, and he'd guard those minutes like they were made of gold. That's changing right now, and fast. Newer low-orbit networks, the same kind of dense satellite swarms you may have heard about being used over land, are being bolted directly onto ships. They deliver fast, cheap internet in the middle of the ocean that would have sounded like pure science fiction just a decade ago. A crew member today can video call his kid's birthday party from a ship crossing the equator. That is something no sailor in all of history could have even dreamed of. But here's the question almost nobody thinks to ask. What happens when a ship is going down and there's no time left to dial anyone at all? Because out there, help is not 5 minutes away. It could be days. So every large ship carries a device about the size of a water bottle, mounted somewhere it can float free if the vessel sinks beneath it. It's called an EPIRB. The instant it hits the water, it switches on all by itself. And it starts screaming, not to a phone, but to a network of dedicated search and rescue satellites circling the Earth. Within minutes, a rescue center on land knows exactly which ship is in trouble and knows its precise location down to a few hundred feet. This entire automated safety net has a name: the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System. It went fully live in 1999, and when it did, it quietly made history. It retired Morse code. After nearly a century, the tapping stopped. The last commercial distress signal was sent in dots and dashes, the frequency went silent, and the whole thing was handed over to satellites and automatic beacons that never sleep and never miss. Now, here's what surprises people the most. For almost all of human history, going to sea meant vanishing off the face of the earth. A sailor who shipped out in 1850 might be gone for 3 years. His family had no idea whether he was alive or dead until the day he walked back through the door, or the day they finally accepted he never would. Letters took months and often never arrived at all. Children were born and grew up not knowing the sound of their own father's voice. The ocean didn't just separate people by distance, it separated them by silence. And that silence is what all of this technology really killed. Not the distance. The distance is still exactly the same, all 2,000 miles of it. But a man standing on a steel deck in the loneliest place on the entire planet can now hear his daughter laugh, in real time, right now. He can say goodnight. He can be there, in the only way that has ever really mattered. So the next time you see a container ship on the horizon, tiny and silent against all that water, remember this. Somewhere on that ship, someone just got a message from home. And the space between that person and everyone they love isn't empty anymore. It's full of invisible signals, bouncing off the sky and falling from orbit, carrying voices across an ocean that used to swallow them whole. Now I want to hear from you. If you've ever worked at sea, how did you stay in touch with the people back home, and how long were you gone at a stretch? Drop it down in the comments. I read every single one. And if you learned something today, hit that like button and subscribe for more. I'll see you on the next one.